Hey everyone, today I'll be sharing my 10 best destroyers in the game. These ships are not listed in any particular order, and are based on my personal experience, while also considering the actual strengths and weaknesses of each destroyer. So without further ado, let's get started. The first one on the list is the ROKS Zhengzhou the Great. This ship has great firepower, and it mainly inflicts a lot of damage through missiles, as it has a lot of them. As a result, it's well known for being used as a missile spammer. It's also versatile, as it can not only fight surface targets, but also underwater targets, and it can also inflict a lot of damage on them, as the ship is equipped with great number of weapons to deal with them. It also has a good survivability, as it has good durability, speed, and maneuverability. Its anti-air capability isn't as impressive as its other features mentioned before, but what it has is average for a destroyer. The second one on the list is the USS Ted Stevens. This ship is similar to Zhengzhou in terms of firepower, as they both carry the same type of weapons and in the same quantity, if autocannons are excluded. The main difference lies on their missile slot configuration. Ted Stevens uses 4x1, whereas Zhengzhou the Great uses 2x2 configuration. These configurations have their own pros and cons. With the 4x1 configuration, you can deal significant damage using laser-guided and nuclear missiles, as it makes those missiles harder to intercept and more convenient to use. The downside of this configuration is that if you prefer using regular guided missiles, you'll lose a lot of damage potential when they get flared. You can mitigate this by equipping a guided grenade launcher and using it to trigger the enemy's missile countermeasures, but if you prefer using unguided grenade launchers, this will remain a problem. With the 2x2 configuration, the damage potential loss is reduced, since it has 2 missile slots. You can use one slot to bait opponents into using their missile countermeasures and the other to hit the target. The issue with this setup is that the 2x1 missile slot configuration is more likely to be intercepted. You can address this by using missiles that fire 2 rounds per shot, but if you prefer those that only fire 1, the problem will persist. In terms of survivability, it's slightly better than Zhengzhou the Great due to its superior anti-air capability, as it has more air defenses. Its maneuverability is good, but its durability and speed are slightly lower than Zhengzhou's. Still, they're decent for a destroyer. The next one on the list is the Type 055 Batch 2. This ship is somewhat similar to the previous 2 destroyers in terms of firepower, as it carries the same types of weapons, though in nearly the same quantity. I say nearly because it has more torpedoes, which makes its firepower slightly better than the previous destroyers and more dangerous against submarines. The missile slot configuration is the biggest difference between Ted Stevens and Zhengzhou the Great. As for this ship, it also uses a different configuration, specifically a 3x1 and 1x1 configuration. This configuration offers the same advantage as the 4x1 configuration, but it may, or even will, deal less damage, because the 3x1 releases fewer missiles, and the missiles in the 1x1 slot is easier to intercept. Furthermore, if you prefer using regular guided missiles and don't like using a guided grenade launcher, it won't effectively reduce damage loss, or perhaps won't reduce it at all, as it's very unlikely you'll be able to bait opponents into using their countermeasures with the missile from the 1x1 slot, which only releases a single missile. So while the torpedo gives it a slight edge in firepower over the previous 2 destroyers, the problem with its missile slot configuration may cause it to still deal the same amount of damage as them. In terms of survivability, it's better than the previous destroyers. It has good maneuverability, speed, durability, and great anti-air capability. The fourth one on the list is the HMS Paladin. This one is another destroyer with great firepower. It is equipped with 5 missile launchers, 2 locked cannons, and 2 grenade launchers. Like the first 2 destroyers, it deals a lot of damage primarily through missiles. However, unlike those ships, it's slightly weaker due to the lack of torpedoes. Despite that, I included it in this list because the previous ships often can't fully utilize their firepower in actual battles. The reason is that, in most battles, opponents often hide behind obstacles, and because of this, ships that rely on torpedoes, such as Type 055 Batch 2, Ted Stevens, and Zhengzhou the Great, can't always use their torpedoes. Even when they can, the torpedoes often end up hitting obstacles instead, since they're generally slow enough to give your targets enough time to retreat behind cover. So without their torpedoes, Paladin can deal more damage as it has more weapons than them. On top of that, the ship has a high camera height, allowing it to lock onto targets from behind short obstacles. This could make it easier for you to turn the tide of battle in your favor. When it comes to its missile slot configuration, it's the ideal version of what the Type 055 Batch 2 has. It uses a configuration that's compatible with laser-guided missiles thanks to the 3x1 slot, and at the same time, it can reduce damage loss because it has a second missile slot that uses 2x1 configuration, which is harder to intercept and more likely to convince opponents to use their missile countermeasures than a 1x1 slot. As for its cannons, they're not as significant as those on other ships that also have a pair of cannons. The reason is that they're locked onto the ship, and the cannon it uses has a longer reload time than the Den Shogun, while its power is significantly lower in comparison. Still, you might not want to completely underestimate it, as its burst damage is close to that of two Monarchs. In terms of survivability, the ship is decent, as it has great durability and good maneuverability, but its speed is terrible. However, it's manageable, especially if you have advanced consumables, though it will still frustrate you from time to time. Its anti-air capability is solid, as it's equipped with 7 air defense, 5 of which are customizable, while the remaining 2 are locked anti-air missiles that are more powerful than the ones on Type 055 Batch 2. The fifth destroyer is the CN Type 052DM Daju. This ship has good firepower, and it mainly inflicts a lot of damage through missiles and grenade launchers, as it has an above-average number of them. However, compared to the previous destroyers, it's slightly weaker. But just like Paladin, it can deal more damage than the first 3 destroyers, because its firepower is also more practical in actual combat. In comparison to Paladin, this ship is certainly weaker. It doesn't have 5 missile launchers or 2 cannons. However, it does have 3 grenade launchers, so while it may not be as powerful as Paladin when dealing with surface targets, it is more effective when it comes to handling underwater threats. In terms of survivability, this ship is, unfortunately, relatively weak. Its durability is below average for a destroyer, and its anti-air capability is lacking, with only 3 air defenses, 2 of which are customizable, while the third is a locked anti-air missile that's significantly weaker than the one used by Paladin. However, you can equip it with an autocannon, capable of handling air threats to help mitigate this weakness. Depending on which autocannon you use, its anti-air capability can become fairly effective. The only consistently reliable aspect of its survivability is its speed and maneuverability. It has decent speed and great maneuverability. The next one on the list is the KRI Sriwijaya. This ship is essentially just a slightly more survivable version of Daju. It has slightly better anti-air capability, significantly more durability, and slightly higher speed. Its maneuverability is lower than that of Daju if you take the 2 of them into battle, but it's still pretty good for a destroyer. You might think it has slightly less room for firepower improvement since its cannon is locked onto the ship, and that's true, but it's not a major concern, because the cannon it uses is more powerful and has a faster reload time than Paladin's. It's even superior to some of the best cannons in the game, such as the Monarch and the Mark 71. The 7th destroyer on this list is the RF Anchar. This one has firepower that's roughly on par with the first 3 destroyers I mentioned earlier, and it also relies on torpedoes. However, this ship isn't as bad as those 3 if you take torpedoes out of the equation, thanks to its grenade launchers, as it has 3 of them, all in a single slot. When equipped with a powerful unguided grenade launcher, it can deal significant damage while making its overall firepower more reliable. On top of that, you can make it even more reliable by equipping it with a laser-guided missile, since it has a missile slot that supports it. It is essentially a more balanced version of what Ted Stevens offers. As for its survivability, its durability, speed, and maneuverability are roughly on par with those of Ted Stevens, which is pretty good. However, the same cannot be said for its anti-air capability. While the ship is equipped with 8 air defenses, which is the same as Ted Stevens, Anchar is better in this aspect because all of its air defenses are customizable, allowing you to equip it with powerful air defense systems from the shop or Artstorm market. The next one on the list is the USS Fletcher. This one also has great firepower, but unlike any of the previous destroyers, it's kind of like a battleship because it mainly deals damage through its cannons. The ship is equipped with 3 cannons, and these cannons are all in a single customizable slot. When equipped with a powerful cannon like the Den Shogun, this ship can literally deal more damage than the main cannons of some battleships in the game. So if you're going up against it, it's best not to fight it alone. because you likely won't last long, especially if it manages to strike first. This is currently the only destroyer in the game with this many customizable cannons, which makes it very special. On top of that, it can only be obtained through gacha, which makes it even more special, but also a problem, since it's very difficult to acquire gacha-exclusive ships unless you're willing to spend a lot of money. I think that's the ship's biggest and only drawback, because everything else about it is sufficient. It has decent anti-submarine capability, decent anti-air capability, and all of its major attributes in its specifications are enough. The 9th destroyer on the list is the USS Zrephy. This ship's firepower is significantly lower than every other ship on this list, and there are also many ships that didn't make it onto the list that have better firepower. On top of that, its anti-submarine capability is non-existent, while its anti-air capability is weak. Still, I have several reasons why I included this ship in the list, despite all of its flaws. First, while its firepower is lower compared to others on this list, it's still enough to compete in Tier 3. On top of that, its firepower is more practical than some ships here, since it doesn't rely on torpedoes, and its weapon slots are customizable. The number of missiles and cannons it carries is above average, so if equipped with the best options for those weapons, its offensive capability can reach a level where it becomes very dangerous. Second, the ship has good specifications. It has great durability, speed, and maneuverability. It even has good visibility, if we take that attribute into account. All of this gives the ship enough survivability to fight effectively against surface vessels in Tier 3 that aren't direct counter to it. Third, the ship can unleash its firepower faster than most destroyers in the game. This is due to the fact that it carries fewer weapons and how its weapon slots are configured. As a result, it can be very difficult to push back from the position it's holding, making it highly suitable for both offensive and support roles. Finally, the weapon placement on Zrephy makes it highly effective for the peek-and-shoot tactic. Most of its weapons are positioned near the bow of the ship, allowing it to peek out and fire without most projectiles hitting obstacles, something that not many ships can do. The last ship on the list is the RF Admiral Battleship. This ship is often considered the best destroyer in the game, and it's easy to see why. Like the Fletcher, it mainly deals a lot of damage through its cannons, but this one also delivers significant damage with its grenade launchers. It has 2 cannons and 3 grenade launchers, all of which are customizable. When equipped with the best versions of these weapons, it can deal damage just as good as Fletcher. On top of that, the ship can potentially deal significant damage to both surface and underwater threats, and it's not just because of its grenade launchers, but also because it has torpedoes. This makes its firepower a more balanced version of what the Fletcher offers. Additionally, it makes its firepower less practical in combat, but this isn't a big concern because it can still deal plenty of damage with its remaining weapons even without the torpedoes, and these torpedoes don't perform very well. They're just enough to handle underwater threats, but not effective against surface threats. On top of that, you can't replace them since they're locked onto the ship. In terms of survivability, it has good durability, decent maneuverability, and good anti-air capability. The ship is equipped with 6 air defenses, 4 of which are customizable, while the other 2 are locked anti-air missiles. The anti-air missile it uses are weaker than the one on Daju, but they can deal more damage since the ship carries 2 of them. The only drawback of this ship is its speed, which is slightly worse than Paladin's. Other than that, the ship is good, even in terms of acquisition, since, unlike the Fletcher, it's available in the Art Storm market, making it less of a problem to obtain. Those are my 10 best destroyers in the game. Again, keep in mind that they're not in any particular order. It's just a list of what I think are the 10 best destroyers in the game. So what do you guys think? Let me know in the comment section below. I'd love to hear your thoughts on it. Now, that'll be it for today's video. Hopefully you guys like it, and if you all did, please leave a like and subscribe to support me. Thank you so much for watching.